Always excited to talk to guests here on GKW as we welcome in one of the newest members of the AEW roster, Speedball Mike Bailey. Mike, thank you so much for the time, man.
Thank y'all so much for having me.
What was it about AEW that made you want to join that roster?
To put it in simple terms, it's where the best wrestle. I mean, I kind of see where the current of pro wrestling is going. I know the pro wrestling that I like and have liked for years. In my opinion, all of the world's best talents are in AEW right now. So it really was a no-brainer when you think about the kind of wrestling that I want to do, the kind of wrestling that I want to watch, and the kind of art that I want to present.
Speaking of where the best wrestle, I'd love for you to tell our audience about when you first started in the business. Because stylistically, the speedball that we see today maybe not be the speedball that when you first started. So as you were trying to figure out what you wanted to be in the ring, what was that like for you?
Oh man, so it was a learning process. Again, professional wrestling is incredibly difficult. And so I had a martial arts background, right? I've been a black belt in Taekwondo since I was 14 years old. I started professional wrestling in 2005 when I was 14. And I was much younger than all of the other wrestlers on the show. So it was kind of a battle to follow what people were telling me with their backgrounds in professional wrestling, which were all different, and kind of meet in the middle with letting my martial arts shine, but still being able to, uh, do professional wrestling and not just straight up martial arts. And it's been a lifelong battle since I started in Quebec in 2005, and the pro wrestling world was very different than it is now. We're talking pre-Facebook here. And if you know anything about independent wrestling, it runs on the internet. So for the first 10 years of my career, I mean, there wasn't a lot of movement as things were just starting, but that's what independent wrestling. And Quebec was also very isolated from the rest of the world. So it took me many, many years to start traveling and start breaking out in the United States, then eventually Japan, Europe, and everywhere else until finally coming back to America in 2021 and now joining AEW.
Well, who was it in your training that told you you didn't need to wear shoes when you wrestled?
So when I can't pinpoint it to exactly one person. I don't even think that I have a trainer. You know what I mean? When I have to credit someone for who, like, the professional wrestler that I am today, it's my Taekwondo coach, my older brother, who was also a pro wrestler. I mean, officially, Fred Lamerveille, who is a guy in Quebec that I'm sure none of you are familiar with, would be my trainer, but mostly, like, it was very loose. There was no real tight training, but I think that was a good thing. I think the credit to the success that I had in professional wrestling is that I had a group of like-minded friends, all the same age, and all wanted to do the same kind of professional wrestling. All watched, early Ring of Honor, early American independent wrestling stuff from Japan, and be like, we want to do that. Where everyone, it feels like the majority of the independent wrestlers in Quebec were trying to do a bad version of what they saw on TV. Not bad because they do it, but bad because it couldn't apply. So, I mean, we kind of made the decision, me and my peers in that group, to kind of stray away from the norm, the convention, what was accepted in professional wrestling, and simply do what worked for us. And for me, that was wrestling in bare feet, because that was how I trained. That's how I learned to move in martial arts. And that's just how I felt better.
So you said you got involved in pro wrestling at a very young age, at 14. So who were some of your inspirations growing up as you're a kid watching pro wrestling? Who were those guys that inspired you to want to get in, especially at a young age?
So I am the youngest of 4 siblings. So between that and the martial arts, I always identified with the young kicky guys. So I think X-Pac, 1, 2, 3 Kid, early on, I saw him. Like, it's funny because at 11 years old, I was 4'6", however tall. And I thought he was legitimately the same height as I was, because that was the same height difference that he had with all the other guys he was wrestling. And he was smaller, he could move, and I was like, that's my guy. And then the Hardy Boys. And then once I saw, like, Japanese wrestling, there were a lot of guys there that I really identified with from early Dragon Gate. If you know a guy named BB Hulk, is a guy that I really liked and really identified with. The Amazing Red, when I saw his, I remember seeing an early Ring of Honor Amazing Red music video when I was probably 13, 14 or something, that I was like, whoa, this is what I want to do. This is how I want to wrestle. And then guys like Matt Sydal, Bryan Danielson, obviously from that same era, are all guys that I've tried really hard to emulate.
Speedball, what would you say is the state of the AEW right now, the company that you're in right now? Give us a little bit of an insight on the locker room and how things are feeling lately.
I haven't been there for very long, but it's been an absolute blast. And I mean, I don't want to sound like I'm just, tooting the company horn here. I've been having the time of my life, and there is a real spirit of teamwork in my experience. Everyone kind of has a communal vision of the kind of wrestling that we want to present, and that wrestling is diverse, that wrestling is exciting, that wrestling is for the audience.
You tweeted every Thursday you come home, your heart feels so full. How important is that for you from a work-life standpoint, just to have that feeling and know you're working for someone that gives you that feeling?
If we're being honest, I've been wrestling for nearly 20 years at this point, and it's been a grind. I mean, I've been functionally homeless. I was functionally homeless for like 10 years in that I lived off of pro wrestling, and I went back, from parents' house or Airbnbs or living abroad in Japan, wherever, DDT would house me, or always on tour. And even the last 3 years of my career, the place I call home, I was there 2 days a week. And I would be happy just taking a paycheck. At this point, I would be. And I'm just incredibly grateful that I don't have to be just happy taking a paycheck, that I get to also, of course, have all the benefits that come with wrestling for the top company in the world, but also be creatively satisfied and enjoy what I do, love every second of it. Because I spent a lot of time trying to create the kind of pro wrestling that I want to put on TV, right? That's what being a good artist is. Being a good artist is control, knowing the kind of message that I want to convey through my wrestling, and then being able to put that from my head to the ring. And the fact that I still get to do that in AEW is an absolute blessing. But also the support, the fact that I put this much effort behind my art, and that there is a ever-growing community of folks that recognize and appreciate it. And not only that, but they let me know how much they appreciate it, means the absolute world to me.
All right, you said AEW, we're the best wrestle. So excluding yourself, give me a power rankings. All right, let's just run through your top couple other, we're the best wrestle. Who are the best wrestlers, again, other than yourself, that you have in AEW?
Well, I heavily biased towards Kenny Omega as being possibly the greatest wrestler in the world. But then also you have Will Ospreay, and it's a tight race. Bryan Danielson, of course, I think one of the greatest of all time, no doubt about it. It's unclear at this point whether his career will continue, but if it does, he is really a dream match for me. Of course, Jon Moxley, who hasn't really been showing his best side, but is undoubtedly one of the smartest and most talented professional wrestlers in the world. I think Hangman Page, really one of the best right now, and he's really shown what he's capable of in the Owen Hart Cup tournament. I think Josh Alexander has been one of the best in the world for a long time, and despite being part of the Don Callis family, his joining AEW is incredibly exciting. I think MJF does what he does better than absolutely anybody in the world right now. Do you want me to keep going, or is that enough?
It's up to you, man. If you want to keep going, that's you rattled off. You did that quickly without much hesitation. I'm impressed.
Speedball, did I hear Kyle Fletcher, or did you miss his name?
I did. I missed his name. Again, Kyle Fletcher has been a guy whose career I've been following for a very, very long time. He and I first met in England in, I think, 2016, where he had just moved over there from Australia. Was part of Aussie Open with Mark Davis, and they were making a huge mark over there when the UK independent scene was absolutely blowing up, as two guys who literally packed up their whole lives decided to move to a strange country and fully dedicate themselves to professional wrestling. And seeing what Kyle has done and how he's been able to translate that to AEW at his age is absolutely outstanding. And I mean, I don't think he's there yet. I think he has a lot to prove, but he's very clear in his message that he wants to be known as the greatest pro wrestler of all time. And I think that is a strong possibility for him.
So, Speedball, it's one thing to be booked, but it's another thing to be wanted for the long haul. What does this mean to you personally for you to be connected to All Elite Wrestling, for Tony Khan and for the company to say, yeah, we want you on TV on a regular basis. We love your talent. Not just to drop into a city or to a country, but actually to be on television on a regular basis for a company.
That's what I've been working for my whole life, basically. Professional wrestling has been what I wanted to do, and I knew the level at which I wanted to do it. And I mean, I feel like this is exactly where I belong. It feels very validated, and I'm glad there is a whole team of people that are in agreement that this is where I am as a pro wrestler. This is what I want to do. I mean, I think art is subjective, right? But there is such a thing as being an objectively good professional wrestler. And that's something that I learned over in DDT in Japan. And I think there's a lot of AEW that draws from DDT. I don't know if you guys are familiar with DDT.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Right. So they are known for doing more outlandish matches and really pushing the envelope when it comes to the art form of professional wrestling and how it's presented. And I remember being there in Japan, doing a show with DDT in the middle of a shopping mall on blue mats in front of an audience that is, quite frankly, there to buy new shoes, not interested in seeing professional wrestling, does not know the performers, does not care. But your challenge as a professional wrestler is to make them care, to get their attention and get them invested into professional wrestler. And I saw guys in DDT that easily know exactly what they needed to do to achieve that. And to me, that's an objectively good professional wrestler. It's very easy for a wrestler to be good in front of their audience, to know how to do one thing. But I pride myself in the fact that I've been able to grow into a performer where you can put me into any situation at all, and I will achieve whatever the goal is. I will make the audience feel however you want me to make them feel through professional wrestling. And the fact that Tony Khan and a large group of people are in agreement that I am able to do that, and I am worthy of being put on national television and asked to do that, means the absolute world to me, because that's who I want to be as an artist.
For you, in terms of having a home, how different is it having slower weekends? Your wife posted being in Vegas, bouncing around. You don't have to do that this year. How different is that for you to slow it down a little bit?
It's great in a lot of ways. I mean, it's still incredible watching my wife Veda, who did commentary on WrestleMania weekend for 9 different shows. Veda works incredibly hard all the time, and we were on the same schedule for the last 3 years, where I did, I think, in 22, 23, and 24, I did like over 150 matches a year. And now the schedule has been pretty much only once a week on Wednesdays, but that doesn't mean I work any less hard. That just means I get to shift the effort into different places. It definitely makes the one match a week that I do, I get to think about it a lot more. I get to concentrate my energy, but also I have been working incredibly hard at training and in the gym. And I mean, I think doing interviews just like this is a big part of my job in AEW, and leveraging social media in order to get more eyes. So, I mean, the effort output in total is the same. Just the wrestling part gets concentrated into one slot.
Speedball Mike Bailey with AEW. Again, catch him out. AEW Beach Break, May 14th in Chicago at the Now Arena. That's Hood's neck of the woods. How did the pairing of you and Kevin Knight come about?
You know what? I'm not sure. I don't know. We were put in that 4-on-4 tag team match for the one that where the winning team got $400,000 and we won, got $100K each. But I think Kevin and I we had a couple matches over the last few years. He is definitely someone that I get along with and get along with even more in terms of professional wrestling. I think his time with New Japan Pro Wrestling really added another level to his skill set. I have been in a lot of tag teams. He's been in a lot of tag teams too. And I mean, it's one of those things that kind of just worked real well. We kind of think the same things without saying them in the ring. And it's just, it's honestly, it's vibes. It's just vibes. It just works.
Mike, you've been in wrestling for a long time, and I think all of us have goals. Do you have an ultimate goal for yourself in the business after all these years?
I want to. I mean, it sounds silly, but my ultimate goal is to have a facility where I can create professional wrestlers. I think some of the greatest joy I've ever felt when related to professional wrestling was watching people that I trained or helped in their training succeed. And I feel like my mission, my duty as a performer is to become as successful as possible so that I can set the mark as far as possible and have one of my students try to beat it.
You know, in your vlog, you get a word of the day from Mark Briscoe. What's the word or phrase you would use to describe Mark Briscoe?
It's legendary. He's already a legend, and everything that he's accomplished. I mean, as part of the Briscoe brothers, and then the fact that he's keeping it going and performing by himself at such a high level is absolutely amazing. I mean, he's an inspiration at this point. I think everyone is familiar with his story and what happened to his brother, and the strength that he's shown and the leadership despite that, and the attitude that he constantly has is absolutely outstanding. I mean, just in terms of longevity, he's someone who also started when he was, I think, 17 or something like that, 16, had his first match in Ring of Honor, and he's had an absolutely amazing career. And if it ended now, he would still be a legend. But the fact that he's still got so much more to go makes him incredible.
Beach break for AEW, May 14th in Chicago. Speedball Mike Bailey, thank you so much for the time, man. Certainly appreciate it.
Thank you all so much for your time.